All right, so today we're going to talk about how we're going to onboard the next 1 million blockchain users, and I'd like to be as bold to say the next 10 million blockchain users. So I'm Medha Parlikar. I'm the Chief Technology Officer and one of the co-founders of CasperLabs. CasperLabs is the company that built the Casper technology upon which the public Casper protocol is based on. And before I came into the blockchain space, I worked in traditional software as a service. You can call it SaaS, you can call it Web 2, you can call it cloud, but basically technology that runs in a browser. It is the browser-based software, client-server-based, and I worked at companies like Adobe, Avalara. I've worked in web analytics, content delivery systems, and financial compliance. And my role there was the Director of Quality Control, call it Quality Assurance, or Director of Engineering, a Senior Director of Engineering, and I was responsible for product and driving teams to ship. So I'm very much a product-focused CTO, a little different than most of the CTOs you'll see in the blockchain space, and I think that's for a very good reason. So where do I point this? There we go. So traditional blockchains, traditional CTOs in the blockchain space are very research-focused. They're not necessarily product-focused, and you know, when we founded CasperLabs, one of the things we saw is that enterprises are going to lead the way for blockchain adoption. And in fact, Deloitte published research that says 93% of global executives believe that blockchain is going to unlock significant revenue opportunities for their business. And Deloitte also reported that 75% of those executives believe a failure to adopt blockchain technology will result in a loss of competitive advantage. In fact, in 2021, they spent over $6.5 billion in information technology specifically around blockchain, and that's in this bad market. So the opportunity is without question massive. Oh, let's go back one. Back. So when we talk about blockchain today, you know, there's a huge opportunity between now and 2028 when we look forward to seeing what possibilities blockchain can unlock. And as I indicated, if you think about back to the cloud or Web 2, you'll notice that it was really driven by enterprises. Enterprises are the ones that made cloud ubiquitous, available access for everybody through all the applications that we love to use. And of course, mobile took it from the desktop to the phone. So there was a lot of innovation in the space around mobile. And so when we think about how is blockchain going to be leveraged by enterprises, what are the features that enterprises really need, right? I would have never used any of those public blockchains in my role as a Senior Director of Engineering because I was responsible for a lot of things. Namely, what does that look like? Well, I need that technology to be usable across my engineering team. So I can't use a bespoke custom programming language. That doesn't scale, right? I needed it to be secure. I need to have those guarantees. If I'm going to use a public protocol or if I'm going to use a private protocol, it doesn't matter. I need to have some guarantees that that protocol is providing me the immutability that I need. And lastly, but most importantly, I need to be able to incrementally update and improve my code on chain. And I don't know if many of you are aware of this, but a majority of the public blockchains out there, once you deploy a smart contract, upgrading it is non-trivial. In fact, it is very, very difficult for you to incrementally build your on-chain code. It's not impossible, but it's really, really hard to do so. And there's a lot of security guarantees that fall away when you go through the upgrade process on other blockchains. Now, I know that all the software that's been built over the past 20 years wasn't built in one day, right? I mean, it's built incrementally over time. Businesses need to remain in compliance. They need to support customers. They need to onboard and offboard customers. They need to be able to recover keys. There's a lot of features that businesses need from a blockchain in order for it to go mainstream and really scale it out. So we founded CasperLabs in 2018. This is an especially auspicious time because we just celebrated our 4th birthday. And at the time when we founded Casper and CasperLabs, we knew that enterprises would lead the way. And we also knew that enterprises needed a few things. They needed an excellent product, a blockchain technology to meet their needs, but they also needed a company that was focused on professional services, structured in that way. And CasperLabs is that professional services company that provides support to the public Casper protocol, but additionally, we provide training, onboarding, and bespoke development for large and medium-sized enterprises and even public projects to build out on the Casper protocol. So we're very excited to be celebrating our 4th birthday today. So when we talk about in-depth the Casper protocol, I'm showing here a slide of 3 different blockchain deployments. You'll see the public blockchain here on the left, and in the middle is a consortium blockchain, and on the right is a private network. Now, Casper does support all of these deployments. It's very energy efficient because it's pure proof of stake. And there's a lot of proof-of-stake networks out there, but what's unique about Casper is we have done the engineering work to make it very efficient, even in terms of the VM, the type of virtual machine you can use or need to use. 4 cores, 32 gigs of RAM, so it's not like you have to provision a whole bunch of bespoke hardware to run Casper. You can run it in AWS, you can run it in Google Cloud, and you can run it in a variety of configurations, and you can even transition from a private network to a consortium network to a public network through the upgrade process without losing any historical data. This is really important for businesses because as their needs change, so can their network to meet those requirements. So having that flexibility is super important. Having the ability to scale the technology internally within the organization is really, really important as well. So let's talk a little bit about how businesses are actually using this technology. So here, we'll see about intellectual property management. So we have a partner, IPWe, that is building on Casper, and they're using NFT technology on the public protocol to track the provenance of patents using a hybrid network in collaboration with Hyperledger and Casper. The patents are published to the public protocol, but the terms of sale and the terms of lease or the terms of licensing are managed on a private protocol. And we believe this kind of configuration is going to be really, really significant as enterprises adopt because they have very specific needs. So intellectual property is very, very interesting to use NFT technology for. For retail, there's also opportunities to do loyalty programs or create communities around your brands using NFT technology, which will streamline the user experience significantly, particularly for brands that use distribution channels to get to customers because they don't have a one-to-one relationship with that customer. NFTs allow them to establish that relationship with the customer directly in a very easy way and allows them to drop offers into those users' boxes through the blockchain technology. Obviously, supply chain, you hear a lot about supply chain. We're doing something very different with supply chain. So we are using IoT devices coupled with our NFT technology. And as you remember, we have mutable NFTs, right? So they're slightly different than your traditional NFT, but what it allows us to do in the supply chain is you can imagine a temperature sensor in a crate or a temperature sensor in a shipping container. And those temperature sensors can write metadata to the NFT that is the crate. So when the NFT and the crate conveys to its final destination, to the purchaser, they get all of the historical information about how that crate was maintained during transit. That information conveys with the crate. It's part of the crate. So if they're going to resell it or they're going to transfer that asset to somebody else, they can prove that it was transported correctly, right? So you'll hear a lot of IoT blockchain integrations that talk about writing the IoT data to the blockchain, but you don't hear them coupling that with the goods that are being sold specifically in a container, in a crate, so that they can be conveyed further, right? And so that's something different that we can do in Casper because even NFTs will have a life cycle. There's a workflow associated with them. For energies and utilities, you'll hear a lot about carbon credits. You'll hear a lot about, building carbon credit marketplaces. So we're doing some work in that space. And of course, in healthcare, we're talking about medical records. There's a huge amount of work being done around, self-sovereign electronic medical records using the blockchain technology and how that benefits, even pharma, right, in terms of getting information into these case studies, into these studies for pharma. And then, of course, we're doing a lot of work with governments. So we've got a different deployment of the Casper protocol that is fully tokenless. The Casper technology is very configurable, so we were able to do a deployment for the BSN Network's Open Permissioned Blockchain initiative in China, and we're also working with governments in India to do the same thing. So thank you so much for your kind attention, and I'm always here. If there's any questions, I think we've got a couple minutes. I can take a question or two. No questions? Well, yes. The question is, what do I think about real estate on the blockchain? There's a lot of projects that are doing real estate on the blockchain, both the tracking of the asset using NFT technology and then also fractionalizing that asset to provide greater accessibility to people that want to participate in the upside of real estate, be it commercial property or even residential property. So there is a lot of projects. It's actually a very crowded space in the blockchain right now, the blockchain space. Lots of work being done there. Governments are really interested in it from a deed perspective, and there's a lot of projects that are actually fractionalizing this real estate to provide greater access and to financial inclusion is the word I wanted to use for individuals that are looking to participate in that without having to buy a whole house. So lots of work being done there. Yes. So question is, how is the platform future-proof? So there's some very interesting architectural changes that we have made in Casper. It's a very modular design. So I'm really excited about the Casper 2.0 release that is planned for next year, and we will be actually swapping out our consensus mechanism. So our consensus mechanism is a pure proof-of-stake consensus mechanism. It's a classical fork choice rule based on the CBC Casper research. We've been working to improve that, and I'm really happy to report that we have in test right now a flavor of Casper that runs 2 different consensus protocols every alternate era. So it'll switch between Highway and Zug. Zug is the new one, Highway is the old one, and it will switch every 2 eras. It'll go from one type of consensus to the other type of consensus, and it's completely configurable. And why is this important? Because I believe there's a lot of research and innovation happening in this space, and we wanted an architecture that allowed us to take advantage of the new innovations that are coming. We did the same thing with the virtual machine, which we built ourselves. It's WebAssembly. But if there's new technology or new flavors of WebAssembly or a different virtual machine that is faster, we can swap out WebAssembly for something else. Same with our keys. Our keys can be quantum resistant because we are agnostic to the elliptic curve for the key technology. So we support 2 key types right now on Casper. And so these are just a couple of examples of how the protocol is future-proof, because enterprises are going to want a partner that is always upgrading their software to give them the best security and the best quality in terms of a core protocol for them to build on. Great question. I think I've got time for one more quick question. Okay, in front. What's a good example of upgradable NFTs? So a great example is, let's say I issue a bunch of NFTs, and initially the business says we don't want those NFTs to be tradable, right? There is no capacity for anybody to transfer this NFT from one person to the other. But then later on, there's a business need that changes and says, you know what, now we can actually transfer these NFTs from one person to the other. We've discovered through our process that there's an opportunity where we can take advantage of the tradability of these NFTs. So what you can do is just upgrade the NFT contract, and now you can add a transfer method to it. You don't have to burn the NFTs and reissue them, because that's very upsetting. It's very expensive from a gas perspective as well. Here you can just upgrade the contract and add a new method, or even add new capabilities to those NFTs versus having to burn them and reissue them. It's a very simple example. Our NFT contract actually allows you to create any kind of NFT you are looking for just with a single contract, and that's because Casper supports an on-chain package manager. So you install software on Casper the same way you install software in your computer. And when you install it on Casper, you can configure it. So you can set it up the way you want. Do I want people to be able to transfer it? Can anybody mint from it? Do I have metadata? Yes or no? And in that process, you can create virtually any kind of NFT contract you want from a single contract. And this is really great because then you can get the security guarantees of an audited contract without having to make changes to the base contract. You can just trust that that audit's been done and that contract is secure. Thank you so much. I'll be available for questions. I'll be here. Come see us over here at NFTLA. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much.